A rare combination.
Hello everyone, this is Haji Yusuf with Minnesota Wired. With me here is Asad Aliweyd, a Bush Fellow and also founder of the New American Academy, a non-profit that is specifically about housing, cultural awareness, education, among many other things. So I've got to be lucky today to have Asad with me, and we will have this great conversation about two things. One, housing, and the second one is what's going on with as part of and he'll tell you more on that as part of committee or leadership in charge of the Lake Street business corridor recovery. He will tell you more about that. So Asad, welcome to Let's Ride.
Thank you so much, Haji. I really appreciate for your time. I am enjoying to ride with you today and talk about the community programs and services that we've been doing, especially in this time of pandemic, in this time of crisis. New American Development Center used to call New American Academy, by the way, you're right. We changed the name a couple of years ago.
Okay.
To align ourselves with the work and the programs and services that we do. So, New American Development Center, its mission is to build a vibrant African immigrant community in Minnesota in terms of housing, jobs, economic development, and also with youth development. So, since this pandemic comes, we've been really in the front line of helping the community to get access to the resource that they need, advocating through our networks and also influencing the policymakers to help assist this immigrant community to go through in this time of hardship.
So with housing, with this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of families have, a lot of families are suffering. One, due to jobs. A lot of them have either lost jobs because of this pandemic, and rent may be too high, or they will not be able to afford it. What is your organization and your leadership, among many other people, doing to really address specifically this issue?
Before the COVID-19 or the pre-COVID-19 time, even housing was a huge problem to our community in terms of affordability, access to large size families, and some bad landlords are abusing the tenants. So bad. Maintenance issues, tenant abuses, affecting people with no legal grounds. That was something that we've been experiencing, and we've been part of a really good, strong coalition that has been trying to change policies throughout the state. But when the pandemic comes, when people stay home through the executive order signed by the governor, we have seen, the people become, their income change, they stay home, the rent still the same, and even some landlords are asking the people to they're increasing the rent monthly. Even we've been last week we had a conversation with one big apartment building in this middle of the COVID-19. He added $115 every single resident in that big apartment where hundreds of immigrant Somalis live, families and children. So we seen that. Also, we are working with the state of Minnesota. Actually, the New American Development Center is one of the grantees of the state of Minnesota to help people pay rent, utilities, mortgage insurance. We are looking for a specific guidelines of the federal guideline, hard poverty guidelines. We are going up to the 300 percentile in income. So the purpose of this money through the state is to make sure people stay where they are. We are fighting with homelessness.
Right, and make sure that no one gets kicked out, no one gets affected.
Absolutely.
People stay in their homes,
Yes.
apartments, homes. So what's this process like? So you just mentioned this.
Here is the process. Okay, here's the
Okay.
process.
What does someone need to do? Let's say somebody's out there right now and he hears you and says, "Oh, there's help."
The Minnesota, there has been a competitive application. It was a grant. Luckily, New American Development Center was one of the few organizations that has been assistance right now is people, they should go to a housinghelpmn.org. So when they go to that link, that website, housinghelpmn, like Minnesota.org, they will be able to answer 3 basic questions. Question number 1, are you live in Minnesota? Yes. So one of the basic eligibility is person have to live in Minnesota.
You have to be a resident of the state of
Yes,
Minnesota.
you cannot came from like New York or somewhere else. You cannot apply to different state. The second question is, do you owe money related with the COVID-19 issues in terms of health, income, whatever it is? The third question is utilities. Do you owe utility or anything else? So once you said yes for those 3, then this other question will be the income. So the income guideline comes here. The 300 percentile, for example, if you are a family of 5, you can be eligible to apply this money if you are making all the way to $90,000. Any family who's more than 5, you add 13,440 for each additional person. For example, 6 people, so 90,000, which was the 5 people, you add 13,440, which means $100,440, and it goes up, all the way up. So we prefer those who are making 200 percentile or maybe less, but we go all the way to that. And once your application has been submitted, before you submit it, you will select a list of organizations that you prefer to work with. In the Twin Cities, there is about 4 or 5 organizations. So people should select New American Development Center. Once they selected us and they click New American Development Center, their application will come to our portal, into our dashboard. So we'll see the person information, the name, the address, the uploaded income, the uploaded documentation of what you owe, either in a mortgage or from a landlord. Then we will start a process of identifying the information. We will either approve or deny based on what we see in that. The money will go, if those who are eligible, the money will go to the landlords or the mortgage companies or utility companies such as Excel Energy, Centerpoint, and that kind of companies.
So before we go to the bush, you as a bush fellow, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's one of the few Somali Americans that have are winners of the bush fellow award. Before we get to that, this is Lake Street. We're in Lake Street right now, and you are also a part of a group, a committee or leadership that is working on fighting and reviving and maybe, I don't know, you can tell me more about that. But as I understand that you are one of the leaders working on reviving this corridor of businesses, which is mainly owned by immigrants and people of color from different parts of the world, including Somalia and many other parts. So what is your role on this one, and where are you guys so far, and where are you headed on this one?
Thank you so much. This is another service we do in economic development. So New American Development Center, we have been working with the East African Somali small businesses for the last 6-7 years in terms of technical assistance, budgeting, training how to start a business, entrepreneurship training, and also creating effective marketing strategies for our small business owners. When this unfortunate murder happens with
George Floyd.
And the riots that came after that, which destroy Lake Street. You know, as you see right now, we are driving in Lake Street. You see how many buildings that has been burned down. You will see how many buildings that has a big wood kind of covering that become out of business. So Lake Street is not the Lake Street that we know a few months ago. Lake Street needs to be rebuilt. So a group of community developers, organizations, and CDFIs came together and said, what should we do? I really appreciate the leadership of Lake Street Council, a woman called Alison Sharkey, and also Mike Timali, who's the Neighborhood Development Center president, and MCCD, and the rest of other, established, strong business, economic development, CDFI organizations and community developers. So as one of the organization, one of the partner organization, we've been the East African Somali-led organization who are part of that. So we created what we call Lake Street Recovery Oversight Committee, like 6-7 organizations. We did a fundraising. We have raised $10 million to rebuild and restart, re-energized into Lake Street.
Excellent.
So we want the Lake Street to be as it used to be when it comes to diversity in business, in people, in everything, and culture. So we opened a process we call We Love Lake Street Grant. About the first phase, about 300 applications came in. The second phase, about another 200. I think we already awarded close to $5 million to small business owners, as small as 5,000 all the way to 25,000, to make sure every single business that has been either directly or indirectly affected by these rights should get some kind of help. 85% of the businesses that we help are businesses owned by people of color. Whether you call a African American, Latino, Asian, Arab, whatever you call, 85% of those businesses who get that money are businesses owned by people of color. A big percentage of it was owned by women. I know a lot of businesses that we help through this grant process was owned by a Somali woman. Businesses that get really affected so bad, many of them are people that we have known, people I know personally, that I was working closely in their business, and I know how really hard they start that businesses, and now they lost a lot of customers or businesses because of that. So Lake Street recovery is going to be taking for a long time. The damage that happens, it's beyond what we've been expecting. When you see the people, the pictures they're sending, the videos that they're sending, it's even much deeper than what we see right now in our eyes.
The impact is deep, and like you said, it's going to be a while before things get back to normal, like they used to be here on Lake Street. What's some of the personal stories you've heard? Like, I know you've mentioned Somali women. What other personal stories have you heard of people that have come here, open up a business, and then one day it's all gone?
One of the personal stories I heard was one of the Somali women who had a shop on Lake Street. Her building was completely burned down. Before they burned down, a group of people came and they hit her head with a gun, with a pistol. And she was a survivor of a civil war. I asked her, how do you feel? She said, Asad, this is not the first time I have seen a gun. This is not the first time I have seen a destruction. So to me, it was one of a bad day. So there has always been, in a Somali culture, every bad day, there's another good day behind it.
Right.
Hope is always, resiliency is there. So what I have seen is that many people who lost everything they have in this process, these rights, they have hope. They believe they can come back, they can reopen their business, they can fertilize their economy, their household income, and everything. So I haven't seen anyone who is giving up. So resiliency and hope and going back to work and business is the stories that I'm hearing.
You're a father. You have sons, daughters. You know friends that are parents, our parents who are parents. Recently, there has been an issue of opioid overdose, drug addiction among the Somali youth here in Minneapolis. What's your take on that? What is your take on that as a father? And there's a problem.
As a community organization leader, I involve with parents and youth all the time. By the way, New American Development Center used to call New American Academy. Originally, the reason we opened this, I used to be a teacher at the Edinburgh High School in mathematics. I used to teach math. So I have seen...
And as a teacher, maybe I will get a lot out of that because you are a teacher, you've seen it and you've been in the front. Go ahead.
Yes. So I have seen a lot of Somali kids who are failing in high school, in Edinburgh High School.
Why? Do you know the reason?
The reason was the Somali kids were not dumb, but they didn't have an opportunity. They didn't have the opportunity that other kids have. They learned the same kind of curriculum. Imagine a child from a Dadaab refugee camp at the age of 14 years old, never had a prior good education, sitting with a child in Edinburgh who started from preschool all the way to high school. How those two kids can have
you cannot reconcile those.
You cannot reconcile.
There's one with foundation and one with no foundation in education.
Absolutely. But a lot of our kids, they did. They worked really hard. They put a lot of time and effort and energy to do, to be one of the classrooms and graduate and get a good grades. By the way, some of the best class students I have seen there were Somali kids. However, you will see a lot of them who are not doing well, not because they are, they are bad kids or they are a dam or something like that, but they didn't have a prior education, and their parents also didn't have a prior education. The socio-economic background they came from is way different. So that's why I opened this organization, New American Academy. I started that, so I bring like 300 kids to come every day from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock into that center, helping them one-to-one. They reach out to the faith leaders.
And you're doing that, as a teacher, and you have this responsibility, a teacher or someone who's a doctor. They want to save somebody. You're a doctor. Anytime you're on an emergency call, you get called upon. Teachers are the same thing. From your experience, do you see Somali American parents getting involved with the education of their youth, of their children? Are they active? What's your view on that? And this is an open discussion. I don't think we should.
We will come back to the opioid issue.
Right.
But I want to give you just a background history of how this organization started.
Right.
So it started because not only I was a teacher, but I was a parent. So my kids were going to the school district. My brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews were going to the school. So I have seen there is a lot of cultural gap. I have seen the achievement gap is so horrible. I have seen a lot of things that we can fix and not that. Then we created, back in 2007, we created what we call Somali Parenting Group. That Somali Parenting Group, we're doing a meeting with the school district, the superintendent, the school board, through the policy level, collecting the community stories about how they feel in schools. So after that, I became a teacher. Then I said what I can do for the kids, and I started this program. That program used to be after school program, mentoring and leadership development, as well as a job skills training. 2 years, we didn't get one single penny from anyone. I was a teacher. I was just doing this 5 days a week. I reached out to to retired teachers, doctors, teachers, lawyers, who all are not Somalis. They're white people who are very care about these kids, want to help these kids. Actually, one of my great friend, David Cook, was my board member too. He used to go to Wooder Church. He passed away a month ago. He was a key really to collect, to advocate, bring tourists like retired teachers in English, in social studies, in mathematics, to our center and help our kids. So through that process, I have seen Somalis parents, they are involved with their kids' education. They don't know exactly what they do because they can't even check the student portal.
Because they cannot read or
They
write.
cannot
They don't
see,
understand.
yes, they cannot see what the kid is missing,
Right.
or whether he or she is failing. They can't see the difference between C or B, but they love their kids to really improve.
So they are very much involved in asking you, how is my son? How is he doing?
Absolutely.
You have those conversations with them
absolutely.
and follow up with that.
So what we did was, which I really encourage, other programs with youth. I signed a release of information authorization form with parents, send it to the school district, ask them to give me access student portal, so I will be able to explain parents how the kids are doing. Some kids are cheating their parents in grade, even in tardies or absent. When those letters has been sent to home, or those kind of behavior issues put into their portal, they don't tell their parents. So that way, the volunteers or the staff members or myself will be able to see and talk to the kids one-to-one. Let me give you an example. In Bloomington School District, there was a couple of students who've been very tough in the school district to help. I will not tell the names, it's confidential, but I was able to connect the teachers, the parent, the principal, myself, to work together in a homework, in tests, in grades and everything. So in a matter of 3 months, we've been able to improve those kids from F, failing, because the kids, they move from different city into Bloomington. They went to an environment that they don't know, teachers that they don't know, which way higher than where they came from when it comes to the level of education. So for Urban and Regional Affairs, Kura, so one of the graduate students was working with us to do a research about the cultural barriers of the East African Somali small businesses and to build the asset and wealth in Minnesota. Then through that study, I found we have two things that will not allow our community to be sustainable in the coming future in Minnesota, which is a cultural obstacles and systematic issues. So I applied Bush Fellowship to address those two things. So having a alternative financing, acceptable Islamic financing system, or what we call a alternative financing to these small businesses and people who want to buy homes. So asset and wealth building through culturally relevant is what our community needs. So that was my argument. And I lay out a plan, which was how that would be happen. So I created what we call Alternative Financing Committee, including the Federal Reserve Bank, the Associate Bank, University of Minnesota, Hamline University, faith leaders from the Muslim community, from Jewish, Christian, elected officials, the city of Minneapolis, city of St. Paul, and non-profit community developers, as well as youth. So that alternative financing committee was 17 people. We compare and contrast the Western financing system versus Islamic financing. We see the differences and the similarities.
And you know what? This is a very interesting topic because a lot of people who are watching, Muslims, non-Muslims, people of all faith, they always wanted to know how do Muslims, the rest of the world, in the Muslim world, how do they finance, homes, cars? And this is a very, very thing. So we're going to wait on Asad to finish this project. And when he finishes, we're going to have this discussion because a lot of people have always asked me. I've seen a lot of people go to dealership. I've seen a lot of people want to buy a home. I've seen a lot of people want to buy properties, want to invest. And the finance is a big issue. Finance is a big problem. And some of them, because of their faith, they don't want to take that step. They kind of hold themselves back. But this is a very good topic for Muslims and non-Muslims because they want to know. They've always wanted to know how this works. So next time we're going to have in-depth discussion on our show about his study and as a Bush Fellow. And when that is done, we're going to get more information from you and we can have the discussion. Thank you very much for joining me today, Asad Aliweyd, and your time. It's curfew time in Minneapolis in about an hour or two. And so we're here today and we had a great discussion. And hopefully we can continue having more discussion with more people, more leaders in our community about some of these pressing issues and crisis, and help try and fight back and push back and be able to. And thank you very much and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Haj. I appreciate for your time. And thank you, Minnesota Wired, for the great job and the great service that you're doing to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.